This changed the subject quite a lot. The government has pointed the finger at Tonga, saying it is a key transit route for meth and other drugs coming to New Zealand. The Associate Finance Minister, Shane Jones, says the government's $700 million boost to foreign aid in the Pacific will help strengthen institutions and governance in the islands and should help combat drug traffickers. But experts warn that drug syndicates have so much money they can easily undermine security and governments. Political reporter Benedict Collins has more.
At a post-budget breakfast in Wellington, Shane Jones was asked to explain the government's Pacific Reset strategy, where foreign aid is being boosted by roughly $700 million over the next 4 years. The former ambassador for Pacific Economic Development says the region's failed states are transit points for drugs, and it's in New Zealand's interests to help strengthen institutions and governance in the islands to combat drug traffickers.
Many of the problems that we're dealing with here, with P and drugs, where do you think that's coming from, folks? That is coming from closely failed states in the Pacific. That is the transit route where a lot of this drama that is costing good, ordinary, middle class, upper class, lower class people inordinate pain and fear and anguish.
And Shane Jones pointed the finger directly at Tonga.
Tonga has a frightfully high level of indebtedness. Tonga needs an enormous amount of assistance with its customs. It is a transit point. I can't say too much about what the police may or may not have shared with us when I was an ambassador, but I have extraordinarily high fears about Pacific Island states being used as transit points for mischief and mayhem, eventually making its way to New Zealand.
The Drug Foundation's Executive Director, Ross Bell, says Shane Jones is bang on the button about the Pacific being a gateway.
So I think it is right to be wary of this risk, because we've seen in other parts of the world where governments do come unstuck and are weakened by the fact that the drug trafficking syndicates have a ton of money and they can undermine democracies.
The United Nations recently warned that the Pacific Islands are a key transit route for meth and its precursor chemicals from Asia, and cocaine from North and South America on its way to New Zealand and Australia. National's Customs spokesperson Simon O'Connor says the government needs to look at the origins of the drugs, not just the transit points. But he says it would be wishful thinking to suggest New Zealand will ever get completely on top of the meth trade.
I think it is working. We are stopping, and certainly when we were in government we were stopping significant amounts coming through. But I think it's utopian to think that we could ever stop it at all. But as I say, I think it's quite right and proper that the government continues to push back and interdict these supplies as best it can.
The Tongan academic, Malaki Koloamatangi, says New Zealand's been helping Tonga with its customs service, but he doesn't think Shane Jones' description is accurate.
Every Pacific nation needs assistance in that area, particularly, for screening and making sure that security is tight at entry points into the Pacific. And that's a work that's in progress. But, to point, out Tonga to say that there's this particular problem, I think is probably exaggerating.
Exaggeration or not, Shane Jones is well aware that the coalition government is under fire for allocating an extra $900 million in the budget for foreign aid and diplomats. And he'll be trying to convince voters why it's necessary at a time when teachers are crying out for a pay rise. From Parliament for Checkpoint, Benedict Collins.